Many people have problems with art and not with reality.
So why is art different?
It's pretty simple, right?
This is knowledge, this is thinking, this is thought.
Yeah, it does something strange with your head.
Welcome to the Undergang Armchair.
Bring it.
Welcome to the Undergang Armchair. My name is Ando. Hello, everybody. Nice to have you back. And, thank you for welcoming me into your head. Today, we do have a big one. It's my roundup of some of the many folks I spoke to when I visited the supermarket art fair in Stockholm last month. It was a lot, a lot of people. And, of course, you try not to disturb people while they're working. And, I'm not really the man on the street kind of reporting. So that's what they're like. Fairs are overwhelming. They're fun, frustrating, interesting, all of it. And like I said, I'm not the best at getting in people's faces, but I did end up speaking to quite a few interesting folks. And I'm happy to say from a broad range of places as well. They will introduce themselves instead of me butchering their names during the conversations we had. But I do encourage you to follow the links on the page for this episode because there's a lot of really interesting folks doing a lot of really interesting stuff. We're going to start out with Andreas and Alice from the team behind Supermarket. Andreas is one of the founders, and Alice is a project manager there. And then we're going to move on to some of the people who were exhibiting or visiting and all that. So please enjoy, and do not forget to check all the links. A good place to start for a potential episode on this program is just to hear a little bit about who you guys are, and then about how the program started and where it's gone to, etc. So I guess just start with you, like who you are and what you do here.
I'm Andreas Ribung, and I'm an artist. And I started Supermarket together with another artist, Pontus Raud, and we are still project managers or creative directors of the fair.
You guys share leadership essentially of the fair. And how long has it been going for now?
This is actually the 12th year if you count the first one called Mini Market in 2006.
Does that mean you don't count it or what?
Yeah, it's not the 12th supermarket.
And how about you?
My name is Alice Masanikova, and I'm the project coordinator of Supermarket. So I just joined the team 2 years ago when I was initially working as a professional networking participants coordinator. I'm an artist also and the curator. And yes, that's about the introduction, I guess.
Would you say that everybody working here is an artist in one way or another?
Almost everybody in the team are artists.
Or a curator or somewhere from the arts world.
Yeah.
But they have the interesting thing is that they have different backgrounds, I think. For example, our economist or financial officer, he's studying anthropology, or our press officer, she's doing film studies. So there's a varied background to all of us.
Well, it's important when you have such a large organization that you have different competencies and different responsibilities and such. Because what I've been impressed with, and compared to the Copenhagen one, for example, you guys are much, much larger. There's a lot more coordinating to do. There's a lot more, just the organizational, logistical levels of it are at a much higher level. And I assume that also comes from having done it for 12 years. You can get a little bit more ambitious each time because you know more about what you guys are doing and what's possible, what's not possible.
Yeah, and if you compare it to Alt CPH, they kind of restart it every year with a new curator, and they also we are more using the art fair format,
right?
Because we found out that this art fair format is a perfect way to organize such a big international exhibition, because we only create the framework and then every exhibitor produce their part.
Right.
And it also, we can charge an admission, which is unusual for a regular exhibition.
Right. It completely creates a different kind of atmosphere and a different possibility for both the public and the presenters.
Yeah.
But I think the most important part about the difference of Supermarket and the other art fairs is that we have the accompanying program, which is one of the biggest assets of it, I think. So the exhibitors not only bring their own artworks and present their initiatives, but they also bring the content.
Do you mean like the events and the performances and the talks and all? I noticed there's a lot of stuff, which is great.
We started with talks, and then we noticed that there were so many performances going on. So we created a stage for performance art, but there are still off-stage performances going on everywhere.
Right, people are running them out of their booths and in the public spaces, etc.
And then in 2010, we wanted to make something to introduce the participants to each other, and we created supermarket meetings, and that is a non-public program of meetings going on with 5-6 participants who are sometimes picked because they have something in common, or and we developed it so that now we have a moderator for the meeting, and they're 1 hour, 1.5 hour long, and
so each of the meetings has a specific theme that they talk about.
Yeah, and I've taken part in 2 of them now, and I found them to be incredibly useful, because one of the disadvantages of a fair context is that there's a lot of distractions, there's a lot of people. It's really hard to have a conversation in that way, whereas you guys provide then a space which is quiet and separated just for the sake of meeting and talking to people. I've had more luck meeting and engaging with other presenters here in that than I have down on the floor.
Yeah.
Which I think is tremendous, because a lot of the people who do this stuff like this are looking for potential future collaboration, a relationship to some other institution.
Yeah, and they can really serve as a startup for new collaborations, because people get this introduction and then they meet in another a little bit later, or meet in a party or something, and then they can continue to talk, and it's also easier to communicate via email afterwards.
Right. And as the moderator of some of those meetings, I made sure everybody exchanged information, because I think it's important that if you wake up in 2 days and say, oh, wait, we were talking about this, but what was it? To keep that exchange of knowledge and information going. That would probably be one of the best things that can happen here, is that people have that continued relationship.
Yeah.
But that brings us to another element of Supermarket, which is the professional networking participants program that started. This is the 2nd year that it has been running, and it's also the main aim of it was to create these networks between exhibitors and between the professional networking participants, who are essentially people who are not exhibiting, who don't present any of their art initiatives. They can also be independent curators or artists or art professionals from different disciplines, but they are still taking active part in the fair, in terms of having a specifically designated program for them, having a quiet, fluffy space upstairs where they can have coffee and just talk over a drink.
Which I think is very important also, because it gives the possibility for people who don't necessarily have the resources, time, or interest in making a presentation, a fair stand, which we all know is a lot of work. That gives them an opportunity still to enjoy the collaboration, the talking, the meeting, the networking, all that sort of stuff. So I have a question, as a person who is an artist and also has a podcast, how hard is it for you guys to maintain your practice while running a huge art fair?
Go for it.
Yeah, this has really ruined my career dealing with this project. But still, it's very creative, and it's rewarding in many ways. And it's actually a part of my role as an artist. It's a part of my profession, and so I think that's important to think of, that being an artist is not only producing artworks. There are other parts. You can be a consultant or teaching, and you can you have to look at it as a part of your profession as an artist.
It's part of the total practice as being an artist.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, today you can't really avoid merging of practices in general. So it's impossible basically to survive solely as an artist without being partly an art manager or art curator to a certain degree. So, I mean, obviously this is taken to an extreme, perhaps, in supermarket, that we don't have much time to focus on our practices. But then again, it brings some other elements to this problematics.
Right. A lot of things do happen, which one has to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you meet so many people, of course. Right?
Yeah. But I'm a bit frustrated right now because I'm working on a sketch for a public art project in a school, and I have to submit the sketch a week after we quit here.
They always do that. They always end up being like, the Monday after something huge.
So I've been pushing that forward for a long time, and now it will be
3 days.
I will do something too quick, perhaps, and I perhaps because of that I might not win that competition because it's 3 artists sketching parallel.
But you'll see. Let's be positive.
Yeah, you never know.
Maybe because you run supermarket, you'll be more qualified to get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is the reality, and that is those choices we do have to make in the so-called real world as artists. And like you said, nobody can really. Very few people can just have a 100% practice. I make paintings, I put them on the wall, people buy them, that's it. That doesn't really exist so much anymore.
No.
I was doing that before getting engaged.
You blew it.
Yeah, I was exhibiting and only like working with my own art.
And you felt like you were missing something, I assume.
Yeah, it was like socially, I started to go to artist-run spaces. I went to a lot of openings, of course, but meeting artists in your kind of your own room became important.
Yeah.
And then I did a lot of residencies, and I got inspired to create an artist-run space. And together with 9 other people, we started Candyland in Stockholm, which has been running for 14 years or something. And after a couple of years, I was representing Candyland at the meeting where Mini Market was born.
So, I mean, that's crazy. You run an artist space, you have an art practice, and you are the creative director of a large art fair.
Yeah, and I have 4 children.
Oh, my God.
Just to top it up.
I think once you're done with all this, you should just have a consulting business where you teach people how to get insane amounts of stuff done. That's
it's
wild.
just to make a list and then strike
and not sleep or eat.
No, sleep is in general a problem when you work in this area.
Yeah.
To be quite frank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to tie it up, I'm curious in hearing if you guys have any specific kind of notes or things you've noticed this time around. Number 12. Is there anything you see that you want to engage in more next year, or where's the organization going from this point on? I know we're in the middle of it and no one has eaten or slept, so it's not exactly the best time for introspection, but if there's anything that pops to mind.
Well, I think perhaps there have been some thoughts of taking supermarket to different places. Maybe we haven't really finalized that, right? Yeah. It's in the process of making
plans. Meet some people in Berlin because in 2008 there was a meeting in Berlin called Art Swap with off spaces, artist around spaces, meeting there, and now BBK is interested in repeating. I think that's the right name of the organization, the big artist organization in Germany. They're interested in repeating Art Swap 2018, and that we would make some kind of small edition of Supermarket.
Well, you guys have the
at the
experience,
place.
and the legitimacy. I assume that the Swedish art system respects and knows who you are now.
Well, they certainly know that.
Right. Respect is always a question, but I mean that you are legitimized. You are an existing entity. You don't have to prove that you're worth it. You are here, and that's it.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, that's something we achieved in a way to make like artist-run spaces taken seriously. Do you say so?
Yes.
But still, I think that it also means that you become a threat to a system that is quite established, and so there you also meet stronger resistance and people who really want to tell that this is not worth anything.
Right. So there can be a lot of criticism, obviously, going on.
But there's so many values. I think this is so much about like values and like economical values or like content-wise or different meanings and values, and depends on what you focus on.
Right. Well, that's why I think criticism or no, it's just important that there is this sort of thing, because it does create a discussion about these values and there are, of course, strong points and weak points, and you can talk till the cows come home. Yeah. But the point is it's here and it's worth talking about. Mm.
But it's also that since the artists themselves, they can choose what they're going to present. There's, as Andreas was talking about, the values, so it allows them to preserve this sort of integrity. They don't have to sell themselves because they know that this piece of work will be good for the market, or that it will sell for good money. So here they can sell works, but they don't have to. They can just, they can just run around the fair and do a performance, whatever.
Right. And that's an important thing to talk about, that sort of integrity. It's an important thing in our world today, in the art world. Mm. Cool, guys. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for both organizing this event and inviting me here, and thanks for taking
thank you for coming here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It will be really interesting to hear your conversations.
What you will do to this.
No promises. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about the space. That'd be
sure. Hi, my name's Eric. I come from all over the world, but now I live in Gothenburg, Sweden. I am representing 2 galleries at Supermarket Art Fair. The first being Grafik i Väst. It's a member-driven gallery from Gothenburg on the West Coast. We have about 270 members. It's both a gallery space, a graphic bank. We have a web shop. You can check out our website and see all our artists' prints online. In Stockholm, we have Grafiska Sällskapet, which is a much older and bigger organization with around 400 members.
Wow.
And the same thing holds true. They have an online shop, the physical gallery space. Grafiska Sällskapet has a print apartment in Paris and a workshop in Stockholm where you can print if you're a member. So
you can actually go to Paris to work for a while, do that kind of residency.
Yeah, they have a
style.
small press and apartment downtown and stuff, so it's pretty neat. But yeah, both places, like, the members are quite old in general. So both galleries are facing a shortage of young people that still identify as printmakers. So being a part of the board at Grafik i Väst since 2012, I've been doing a lot of projects to develop understanding of why and how and where printmaking is still relevant, and to try to get people making prints and working together to make prints.
Was that a conscious decision on their part to try to bring in so-called young blood to try to, like...
I don't know. It was really weird. When I joined the board in 2012, I found out that for their 25-year history in Gothenburg, I was the only quote-unquote young person that has ever been a part of their organization. And I don't consider myself quite young. I mean, I'm 38, but, like, yeah, they've always kind of been a tight-knit crew that's now getting into their 60s and 70s and 80s, and people are dying. And
a certain artistic generation, really.
Right.
Yeah.
And they had a very different social context. I mean, for a long time, the Swedish government was paying printmakers quite a lot of money to adorn public buildings and spaces with prints, and that kind of trickled off in the late 90s, right around when a lot of these people were like retiring and stuff. So they were almost blindsided by the, digital era.
Right, they had one customer who was making a good
pretty
living
much,
for
yeah.
them,
I mean, like many artists, many printmakers were making a ton of money for a lot of years selling prints to the government. And you can still go around in like flea markets and old people's homes and stuff, and you see like really high quality prints like all over the place. It's really still saturated from back in the day.
And that's nice. That's, in theory, that's great. But on the
Right.
other hand, it creates a kind of a one-directional system.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know, like changes in politics and changes in like the educational boards of Sweden are also kind of putting nails in the coffin of contemporary art in Sweden. There used to be, if you took the social track of high school, everybody took a class called Aesthetic Verksamhet, aesthetic practices, and they were in an art class, a drama class, and a music class for an hour and a half each section every week. But that trickled off in 2011, and
As
so
it
now
is known to do.
the whole country is kind of like wondering what's going to happen with Sweden. I think you would probably, if you ask people, they would kind of associate Sweden with design and art and culture, but that's not being taught anymore. So how many years before art as a public discourse disappears from this country? I don't know.
Right, and what does it mean for the actual straight-up finances?
Absolutely,
how much is culture worth? And I suspect it's worth a lot more than anybody can really quantify.
For real, yeah.
What do you see? Do you guys see what you do also as a kind of a lobbying arm almost for?
Absolutely, yeah. The more I've been involved with, we write a ton of grants. We've applied for like €3 million grants and stuff from the EU, and
Ooh, that's hard.
We didn't get them, but we've done 2 rounds of that, and just realized that like the criteria were a bit too focused towards like making giant festivals with like rock shows and like smoke machines and stuff, and that really wasn't what we wanted to do. But so we're still pursuing other venues for like big funding opportunities. But yeah, it's absolutely a political thing in our region. Our gallery in Gothenburg has a certain level of funding that makes sure that we can kind of always go forward. For the past couple years, we just got this new level of funding, so now we're on a playing field with like a lot of museums and Konsthall and stuff like that. So with that comes the like push to keep applying. Like we can't like let down the things that we're applying for. We can't kind of diminish our profile. We have to kind of always increase it. So it's absolutely a political entity now.
Well, what
like
about
it or hate it?
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing. Art needs a defensive force. One of the other organizations here from Copenhagen, 68 Art Institute, the leader of that is actually involved with a lobbying organization straight to the Danish government for artists, to make sure, like, to try to fight cutbacks and, and convince them of both societal and straight up monetary value of culture.
Absolutely.
Investment,
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. We're quite optimistic. We with projects like this, we've invited the nominees from our annual gallery prize. That the final result is a bit of money and a solo show and a year membership. But everybody that gets nominated gets invited to come print with the rest of the team, and we're just here for the bunch of days, like making stuff together and learning from each other and teaching people. Everybody's constantly, on the spot when somebody walks up and asks a question and wants to make a print on a T-shirt or use their dog's foot or whatever to make a print or something. So,
you got to be multi-talented.
It's performative as well as kind of being a normal kind of, as there's such thing as like a normal art fair booth. I don't know.
Sure.
But
well, I mean, you guys are very interactive in that sense. You can see you've got a resiograph right here. You got a, what would you call that press there?
I would call that a typographic proofing press. And we have a laser printer too for printing out the images that you'll feed into the risograph to make the stencils there. So kind of like a 3-pronged way to make printed material.
Well, that's great. I mean, there's nothing like interactivity.
Yeah, it's fun for us too. When there is downtime, I mean, we've been all super productive. Like, using the machines on our own to explore small projects. We had a visiting artist, Claire Hanik from Besançon in France, who published a edition of 30 folios while she was here on the Risograph.
That's nice. A little residency in art fair.
I know, right? Yeah, we tied that in. She's been doing projects with us in the past, and we really liked her philosophy and her work ethic and stuff, so it's been really cool to just keep playing.
Cool.
It's been very fun.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing more about it, and I actually want to come up and visit you guys.
Yeah, you should.
We're pretty close. But thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Yeah.
Here to start out with, just who you are and who you're with.
So I'm Pierre Courtin. I'm a French guy living in Sarajevo since 15 years now.
Wow.
And I'm running the gallery called Duplex, 100 meters square, which is based in the center of Sarajevo.
And is this like an artist-driven space, or is this?
No, it is an artist-run space because I'm also an artist by myself. But then I'm very concentrated to support the local art scene. It's what I'm doing the most. Let's say. So I'm still keeping my home production, but I do only drawings, time to time. Because the local art in Sarajevo is really suffering a lot, let's say. So I really do my best to support them, I will say, locally through Duplex, so through our exhibition space in Sarajevo, and through many projects that I do outside of Bosnia.
How do you think it's suffering? Is it a government thing or a culture
yes,
thing?
There is a big lack of funding. About the institutions, it's really, really hard too. There is almost no money to support contemporary art. The art market almost doesn't exist. It's also really hard. And then many artists also are living abroad.
Right, they have to leave.
No choice. So a lot of them are living in Vienna, a lot of them in Paris, in New York, even in Tokyo.
So places that have more of a built-up system for art support and a culture of that. Yeah.
Exactly. So actually, I call it Duplex a gallery because we are trying to sell artworks abroad. But actually, in Sarajevo, it is more functioning like an art center because we are almost selling nothing. And I would say it's quite good too because we are completely free to do whatever we want. I mean, we do a lot of crazy installations, performances, video installation. So when you look at the program, most of the time there is nothing to buy too. Right. I'm always saying to the artists who are exhibiting in Duplex, really feel free. I don't need perfect artworks, perfectly made with nice frames as a product ready to be sold. We don't care. We are not going to sell. So it's very hard too, but in the same time, it gives us a kind of perfect freedom.
Right. It's not like the people over at the other art fairs that paid 100,000 kroners to be part of something and they have to sell or else they eat shit.
Exactly. So it's a strange... So it is a good balance.
Yeah.
So actually the Duplex really become a gallery when I'm outside or when I'm working as a curator, building projects abroad. But then locally in Sarajevo, we almost could call it is a philanthropic project. Because I'm just in Sarajevo, I'm just paying invoices and bills.
Right.
I'm just spending money.
Right.
And then I'm trying to make money outside of Bosnia to bring that money in Bosnia to work.
So that's basically the funding model that you use. You don't count on making money there.
No.
But of course you enjoy the advantages of money made elsewhere can go longer in Bosnia. You have the advantage of exchange there and the local economies.
We are really creating a big networking all over the world. And I'm really good in that of sharing, let's say, contacts. I have a really good networking, and I'm really sharing everything I have, really purely.
So is that why you come to something like this here in Stockholm? You come to a supermarket in order to meet people, present what you do,
to promote the artists that I'm support. Now I had few really good talks around, and probably Rademko, probably Bojan will be part of some upcoming exhibition in Sweden.
That's great.
Then I'm just putting them in contact. Say, okay, this is all info. I'm sending their booklet, their website, their email address, and then later they will do the job. So I'm just the one with, how can I say, introducing them to someone else, and then later they are building something together. And it's happened very, very often like this. So
That's great.
I'm making a puzzle actually.
Right.
And then it's very important for the artists in Bosnia to show their works abroad too. But this is something very important for the gallery to. It's a way, how can I say, to help them to develop their career internationally.
Right, it must be very hard to sit there and try to contact someone in Sweden. It's better to come in person, show what you have, meet people. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. You have to do it that way.
It's most important to shake hands.
Yeah,
but through email, you can always send thousands of emails, but if you don't know, if you do not meet the people, you do not have the same feeling, the same taste.
Yeah.
And then we have time to have a coffee. You say, okay, let's have a talk in the cafeteria there for an hour.
Right.
I will explain you what that guy is doing. Say,
right.
It makes sense. It's really more friendly too.
Right. Right. It feels more natural also.
And it's more natural too.
But I mean, you guys, the booth looks amazing, and you guys obviously have a mix of, finished presented works in frames ready to go, and then also works that are more experimental, or at least kind of in more of a transient state, that are able to come up and come down fast and easy, but can show potential.
Yes.
And all
that.
That.
For this year, I did something a bit special, let's say, because I really tried to make that booth almost like a small exhibition. Let's say we're dealing about migration. So there is 3 artists: Bojan Stojic, Rademko Milak, and the French-Italian photographer Enrico Danino. So, for example, Enrico Danino, he have been in Belgrade, in Serbia, a few months ago, in last January, where thousands and thousands of refugees are locked there.
Right, they're stuck.
So this is the photos that you see there. So they are living in condition. This is the Middle Age, let's say. So I did a reportage there, and then I asked Enrico to send few pictures that he did in Belgrade to Rademko, and Rademko translated to painting. So you see that photography is the original one.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice
Enrico.
that.
And then Rademko is using the original photography to do some painting. So the whole booth is about migration as a topic, but also migration through the medium that the artists are using.
Right,
so
collaboration.
It makes a collaboration, and it makes a kind of dialogue between the artists. And then we have also Bojan Stojic with few photographies, like he said, like on the fridge. Memories, no distance. You are always traveling with your memories. When you are in a migration, it's something you keep in your mind. Or the one with just behind, fear has no border. That's really true.
Well, it's also a question of the rhetoric, the current political and cultural rhetoric. So I'm really happy to see that you are making a discussion about it, and you're also doing it in a very professional way. It looks really professional. So I wanted to
do my
best.
Yeah. But these 3 artists are really, really, really great.
It's good stuff.
And Enrico Danino is one of the 50 best world journalists in the world. Let's say he's 56 years old. He's traveling all the world since more than 35 years.
Right.
From the Rwanda to Somalia to Afghanistan. So he really knows that subject perfectly. Rademko Milak is honestly, I think, one of the best painters in Bosnia. He's going to represent the Bosnian pavilion at the next Venice Biennale.
I saw that, yeah.
So it is a
big deal.
Amazing story. Yeah. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And Bojan Stojic is a young, promising artist from Bosnia who is already collected by many good institutions. So it is a kind of trio three artists who are really dealing with that topic.
There is some hope out there.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for telling me about the
Thank
space
you,
and
you're
everything.
welcome.
And I'll put links up to everything on the website when this comes out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just hear who you are and who you're here with, and
So I'm here on behalf of Madrasa Collective. That is a collective of 8 young curators, and we all live or come from 5 different countries between North Africa, Middle East, and Africa, specifically Morocco, Palestine, Lebanon, Egypt, and Cameroon. And we are quite young as a collective in the sense that we were born in 2015. And we had one first major project in Denmark in 2016 at the Kunsthal Aarhus. It was a big exhibition that we named Something to Generate From, which tackled the issue of, let's say, artistic practice as institution building and artistic practice as socially engaged in a way, and collective making as well. So in that sense, we decided to invite sort of collective projects or institutionalized projects initiated by artists working in the regions we come from or focus on, so Middle East, North Africa, and Africa, instead of having individual artists and artworks presented. And the idea was really, the challenge for us at the time was also how to reactivate these projects within an exhibition space that is so far from the local context in which they work, how not to represent them but really make them live in this other space somehow. So we kind of tried to figure out together with each collective how we could sort of present them inside the space, trying to find a sort of correspondence between their methodologies and focuses of work and the way we present them.
So. Yeah, and not only that, you guys don't have a home base where you all are together to begin with. So.
Yeah, this is definitely a key element that identifies the collective, and in a way it's also shaping a little bit the focuses we have. This nomadic dimension and this virtual nature that we have, because as I was saying, each of us is living in a different country, so it's each project we do is also somehow a reincarnation of the collective itself, which in all the other moments works all just virtually. Sometimes trying to Skype, even though Wi-Fi connections, particularly from those regions, are not very strong.
Well, I heard also Skype got shut down in Morocco for several months too.
Exactly,
things like that, which,
yeah.
Makes
and
it
actually,
very
this
hard.
happened when we were doing we were preparing the Danish exhibition. So you can imagine the nightmare of coordinating with like 20 people without a Skype
right,
connection.
Not being able to talk. Well, tell me, how did you guys meet each other? How did you start?
We started because we all took part in a training run by a cultural space that is also here in the fair, Atelier de l'Observatoire, which is a space based in Casablanca. And they have several activities, out of which one is a training for young curators from the region. And so the 8 members of Madrasa Collective were part of this training together with other people. And actually the call of Kunsthal Aarhus was somehow the occasion for us to decide to come together with our first project in that sense. And since we quite enjoyed working together for that first project, we have decided to continue.
Well, I think Jacob, who I know, the guy who's the director of Kunsthal Aarhus, is also a very good enabler. He's very good at working with people and developing things. So when you apply, it's okay if you don't have a finished project. He'd rather see it develop through
totally.
his institution and through his help. And he gives just enough help, but not too much, for people to kind of flower.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, we were somehow shocked when we discovered that we won the call. Because we are. I mean, each of us is still very young and at the very at the early stages of its own career, and then as a collective we were just born actually.
Right.
So I mean, it was a lot of faith from the people of the jury that put it in us actually. So yeah, it was a great opportunity.
What a beautiful thing, really. You know?
Yeah.
So what do you guys hope to get out of Supermarket for being here and taking part? Is this your first time doing it?
Yeah, it's the first time.
Yeah, me too. So what was it you hoped to achieve by coming here?
Well, we didn't have major, expectations. We hoped, obviously, to interact with as many people as possible, both from the audience and from the other participants coming. Sort of try to, obviously share the knowledge we can have and bring, but it was also, and it actually has been a test for ourselves to confront with a new public again. Also because we are still young and a little bit unstructured as a collective, it was extremely useful for us to have people asking us who we are, how do we work, because there are a lot of things we still need to figure out, and this dialogue has been very, very helpful for us.
Yeah, no, there's nothing like people coming in and being like, so what is it that you do, in order to actually be like, yeah, what is it we do? It's not always so clear. But it's also a question of networking, obviously, and,
absolutely,
and coming and taking part on that level.
It has been quite interesting in the sense that I found the format of the fair very approachable in a way. It's extremely relaxed. People are extremely willing to interact, both from the stand and the audience. We actually came with a little bit of an ambitious proposal that was not really to exhibit something, not even documentation of projects. It was way more, we really tried to say, we basically work in relational and dialogical terms, and we try to do this here as well. And it can be a major challenge in a context in which people expect to come and just, wander around stands and have a look at things without properly interacting. While in the end, it turned out pretty well. So it was I was very happy about it, and
good.
A little bit scared before coming and happier.
Well, it should always be a little terrifying. There's a nice mix of like somewhat scary, but also with a little bit of an idea, or at least a vision about what's happening.
Yeah.
Do you guys think you'd come back again, do it again?
Hopefully, yeah.
It's a little early now. I know it's Sunday after 5 days in a row, and everybody's tired and out of it.
Yeah. Would be nice, I think. Yeah, totally.
Well, what's next for the collective? Do you guys have anything you're planning on?
Yeah, we have a major project coming up in not even 2 months, actually. We have been invited to co-curate part of a festival in Germany.
Wow.
In Mannheim. Yeah, it's a festival called Supercopy. That has been, now it's at its second edition. So it tackles the issue of copying, recopying copyrights, but also remix. And this year the idea was very much to focus on sort of non-Western, let's say, or non-European practices.
Cool.
So we have been invited to co-curate part of it. So we'll animate a space with performance artists for a week and a small exhibition at the end. So,
well, it seems like you guys got, things are happening and things are moving.
Things are happening.
And every time you come together, something new happens, something stronger happens.
This is a great opportunity actually for us, because it's going to be the first time after almost a year that, let's say, a good majority of the collective can meet in person again.
Yeah.
So it's going to be important also for the collective itself.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for telling me about the space.
graduated from school, and then I moved to Denmark, and I didn't really have a network of people, and I missed talking about art, and not in a formal or critical sense, but in a down-to-earth production sense. So that's why I started the show. It was essentially just to be able to have conversations about the whole thing. So, I mean, I kind of assume it's the same for you guys with the space.
Actually, in our situation is a little bit different because we...
would you just tell me what your name is and what the space is called?
Okay, so my name is Franciszek Buchner, and I am from the Stroboscope art space. We started to be active artists to take part in the shows right after the schools. Both of us, we are from the different schools, and from I'm much older than Norbert also, and we are maybe established is not very good word, but we had the opportunity to show our works. In the galleries or in the institution. Norbert is much more institutional artist.
So you guys have been working beforehand?
Yes, we were working before that. But we found that this specific moment after the school was very, very hard for both of us. And we saw that there's a huge, let's call it, gap between the school and this moment when you as an artist, especially in Poland, because Polish, let's say, art market is very, very small, extremely small, and there's this gap in the time when you probably have the best ideas in your life, even right after the school. And Polish artists cannot show their works. They have none place like, I don't know.
Right, there's no one working with emerging artists or young artists or anything like that.
Mostly, yes. So we decided, as a not so young artist, let's call it, to make the place which will be experimental place for those artists who have good ideas but don't know where to show them.
So you're actually thinking about the next generation in a lot of ways.
Let's call it next generation, yes. Yes. But for me the most important thing was to create place for the experiment, because if some very well-known artist would like to show something in our garage in different way that he's showing his works in institution, gallery, whatever, we are open to do that.
There's no rules necessarily for how to...
Exactly. The most important thing is to make something which is not, white cubing, regular selling, whatever art. From the big places like big institutions,
right? More of a chance to have the freedom to try things. I mean, that's what Norbert mentioned to me earlier, is that you guys have actually turned down money because you want to have freedom.
Exactly.
Do you guys sell work at all, or is that not at all a consideration?
Actually, but we as a Stroboscope.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we don't. No, we don't. We are selling our works as an artist, of course, separately, but we also don't show our works in our space.
Right.
So if you want to see Norbert Dellman or Franciszek Buchner, you cannot go to the Stroboscope, yes?
That's smart, actually. I think that's a really good idea.
I think, yes, it's quite important. I also had some experience with art running places, which at the beginning was collaboration of few artists, then they started to
starts to slide a little bit.
Yes, of course, and revenge, well, whatever. This is not so necessary. So we decided to avoid this kind of situation and to.
I think that's really smart. Because it can go really sideways. And that's actually the same thing with this podcast. I don't even say who I am. I don't say my name because it's not about promoting whatever it is I do. What I do is something different in a lot of ways. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Is this the first time you guys have been on here at Supermarket?
Yes, definitely yes. At the beginning, we even had a little problem with that. Because we are, as I said, we don't sell works. We are not. We don't represent any artists, and it was very hard for us to decide that we will go here with our works. Yes, but finally we decided that we don't have nothing else to show.
So why not?
So why not? And we are trying, and we decide to come here because we decide that the most important thing is to sell our idea, not necessarily our works. And here, where you've got a lot of independent places, maybe we will be able to show to found another people who are thinking like us, and maybe people who would like to show something in our place, or maybe show something from our place in their places.
Right. Well, it's definitely a lot of the focus here seems to be about meeting each other and collaboration, and these meetings are great where you actually get formally introduced to other actors and other people doing stuff, and people seem very open to talking to other people, etc., etc.
Very true.
So in that sense, I think it's been very much a success.
Yeah.
And I guess like you said, people aren't selling really anything. I guess there's the option in some places, but that's not the point.
Yes, this is absolutely not the point.
Cool. Well, it sounds like you guys got a lot of stuff. There's plenty of plans. There's lots of stuff to do.
Actually, there's plenty of plans because we are only this kind of person in this kind of places in the whole of the Warsaw, which is quite big city, And when we started, actually, people was very interested.
Very interested. Yeah, you start getting a lot of emails when you do something like this.
Yes, definitely yes. Our first opening was really, really, really big. I think that we exactly give people what they wanted. Exactly, we did that. We are very, very happy that it works.
And you got to see an opportunity. I mean, that's the nice thing about not being in Paris or London or something. You have an opportunity where you are to do something new, and that's tremendous.
Exactly. This is the main thing. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for telling me about it.
Thank you for asking about it.
Absolutely.
All right, that was that. Supermarket 2017, at least who I got a hold of. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Undergang Armchair. The intro and outro music is kindly provided by Johnny Ripper, and today's interstitial music was provided by Cesus. You can find links to their music and tons of other conversations with great people on our in-your-face microphone of a website, undergang.net. If you do like the show, we would greatly appreciate it if you'd take a moment to leave a review on iTunes so others can find us. It's the best way to help. This show is hopefully soon again produced in part with the kind support of the Danish Arts Council. Thank you for joining us.